November 2025. In the ruins of Avdiivka, the silence hides something new. After months of being hunted by Russia's Rubicon drone unit, Ukraine prepared its answer. A new drone, the FP2, capable of carrying 230 pounds of explosives and striking targets hundreds of miles away. The target? Rubicon's headquarters, the brain of Russia's drone war. The result was devastating. Operators wiped out, equipment reduced to ashes, and Moscow's technological pride turned into smoke. This is the story of the revenge that changed the balance in Ukraine's skies. To understand the impact of this revenge, we need to go back a little, to August of 2024. That's when the unit that would become the terror of the Ukrainian skies was born. Rubicon, officially known as the Center for Advanced Unmanned Technologies. Created under direct orders from the Russian Ministry of Defense, it had a clear mission: to reclaim the air superiority lost to Ukrainian drones. At first, it was just a group of elite engineers and operators, many coming from military intelligence and Russia's aerospace forces. But Rubicon quickly evolved into something far greater: a factory of innovation and destruction. They combined what Russia still did well: volume, adaptability, and aggression. In just a few months, they developed drone warfare doctrines that reshaped the front lines. Rubicon's tactics were simple but devastating. They used swarms of modified Lancet and FPV drones to strike Ukrainian supply lines and logistical convoys, often as far as 9 miles behind the front. The goal was to cut off the troops' oxygen, leaving no fuel, no ammunition, no reinforcements reaching their destination. And the most terrifying part? They operated in silence, with no active radar, guiding their attacks through thermal signals and intercepted coordinates. Field reports and analyses from Forbes began describing Rubicon as one of the most effective and technologically advanced units in the Russian army. Its growth was explosive, from just a few hundred operators in August 2024 to over 3,000 specialists in less than a year. Funding came directly from Moscow, with priority over traditional divisions. The results soon followed. In regions like Donetsk and Zaporizhzhia, Ukraine began to face a shortage of trucks, light armor, and transport vehicles. Every destroyed convoy meant delay, loss, and vulnerability. For soldiers on the front lines, hearing the high-pitched buzz of a Rubicon drone was the same as signing their own death sentence. The buzz of that drone was not just the sound of a weapon, it was the echo of a lost city. Avdiivka, a name that for months symbolized Ukrainian resistance, had become synonymous with ruins, smoke, and blood. Located just 13 kilometers, roughly 8 miles, from Donetsk, Avdiivka was far more than a dot on the map. It was the gateway to the entire industrial east of Ukraine, one of the last bastions blocking Russia from fully controlling the Donbass. For almost a year, every street, every factory, every railway line turned into a trench. It was a fortress, and Moscow knew that taking it would open a direct path to Donetsk and sever Ukraine's eastern logistical axis. But the price paid was brutal. Analysts estimate that Russia lost as many as 47,000 men, dead and wounded, in the offensive to capture Avdiivka, numbers comparable to Soviet losses over entire years of the Afghanistan war. Burned out armored vehicles, destroyed columns, entire battalions wiped off the map, all in exchange for a few kilometers. The fighting was so intense that satellite images showed overlapping craters, turning whole neighborhoods into lunar terrain. Even so, Russia did not pull back. Using glide bombs, FAB-500 and FAB-1500, fitted with improvised UMPK kits, Moscow began crushing Ukrainian positions from a distance. These bombs, dropped from Su-34 aircraft more than 50 kilometers from the front, could level entire neighborhoods with a single detonation. With no air superiority, Ukraine faced a painful choice: withdraw to preserve its forces. In February of 2025, the last Ukrainian units left Avdiivka, not defeated in courage, but buried under numerical superiority and saturation artillery. For many in Kiev, Avdiivka became an open wound, a living reminder of Russian brutality. Hundreds of civilians died, and captured Ukrainian prisoners were paraded in propaganda videos, humiliated, wounded, displayed as trophies. From that moment on, revenge ceased to be merely a military matter. It became personal. And it was in that climate of loss and barely contained rage that the revenge operation was born. If Russia had used Rubicon to strike at the logistical heart of Ukraine, then the Ukrainian response would be surgical: hit the Russian brain, wherever it was hiding. And, in an ironic twist, Fate placed that brain right in the center of Avdiivka's ruins. Up to that point, Ukraine had been relying largely on FPV drones and tactical quadcopters, lethal, cheap, and effective, close to the front. But there was a clear problem. Operators like those in Rubicon were working well behind the lines in semi-destroyed buildings and command centers located dozens of kilometers beyond the useful range of FPV systems. Those small attackers were exceptional at striking convoys and setting ambushes, but they lacked the range and warheads to sweep away a protected headquarters located 50 to 150 kilometers from the front. The Ukrainian answer came in the form of an industrialized project, the FP2, a tactical operational drone developed to fill exactly that gap. The Ukrainian industry, notably companies such as Firepoint, presented the FP2 as a medium-range drone designed to carry heavy warheads and hit protected targets across the theater of operations. What makes it different? First, range. The FP2 was designed to operate at around 200 kilometers, allowing tactical missions beyond the front line without requiring heavy air support. Second, the warhead, approximately 100 to 105 kilograms, enough to destroy buildings, command centers, and concentrations of personnel. Those characteristics place it between tactical drones and cruise missiles, offering a balance of power and cost. Speaking of cost, the economic argument is central. An FP2 costs tens of thousands of dollars per unit according to public assessments of the local industry, far cheaper than a Western cruise missile and viable for scaled production by Ukrainian manufacturers. Observers have cited different price bands, from several tens of thousands up to around $100,000 per unit, depending on configuration, which suggests the FP2 is a cost-effective option for mass surgical strikes. In November of 2025, that combination of range and striking power was tested in the field. The SHUR, Ukraine's defense intelligence, announced that Ukrainian operatives had located Rubicon's headquarters in a semi-destroyed building in Avdiivka and launched a precision strike using FP2 drones loaded with warheads of approximately 100 to 105 kilograms. The statement described the destruction of the command post and the elimination of operators and officers, and released footage shows the moment of impact and the collapse of the structure. Tactically, use of the FP2 solved three problems at once: sufficient range to reach deep tactical targets, a warhead capable of neutralizing protected infrastructure and personnel inside fortified buildings, and a cost structure that allows the attack to be replicated across multiple fronts. It was precisely that combination that enabled Ukraine to target the brain behind the Russian drone campaigns, something light FPV strikes or conventional attacks could not reach without great risk or escalation. The silence after the FP2's impact was not just the sound of a building collapsing, it was the collapse of one of Russia's most feared units. That strike was not merely tactical, it was symbolic. Ukraine did not just destroy operators and equipment, it destroyed Rubicon's image of invulnerability, the brain that had turned drones into instruments of terror. Subsequent reports confirmed that among the dead were senior officers and lead engineers from the unit, the people responsible for coordinating attacks on convoys and Ukrainian supply lines. The operation was a clear message: no one is beyond Ukraine's reach. And that message reverberated in Moscow, in military forums, and even within Western intelligence communities. But the November strike was only the beginning. In the weeks that followed, the FP2 was used in further offensives against facilities linked to Rubicon in regions such as Tokmak and Starobilsk. Nighttime explosions, filmed by observation drones, showed the same pattern: a single impact, a fireball, and the total destruction of control centers. The message was unmistakable. Russia still lacked an effective countermeasure to this new class of weapon. Russian air defense systems, designed to intercept missiles or conventional aircraft, were simply not built to handle swarms of medium-range drones with reduced thermal signatures. The SHUR, in an official statement, made the tone even more direct. For every war crime committed against our people, there will be just retribution. That simple sentence became a symbol, and the FP2 its instrument. Revenge had been institutionalized, no longer emotion but strategy. With that, Ukraine filled a gap that had been fatal until then: the inability to strike strategic targets in depth without relying on expensive missiles or direct Western assistance. Now Ukrainian commands can disrupt Russian rear areas before ground offensives even begin. Every base destroyed, every operator lost, means fewer eyes and less control on the battlefield. But that advantage is not permanent. Drone warfare is a tit-for-tat game that changes week by week. The FP2 is, for now, the weapon of the moment, a temporary game changer. And somewhere in a Russian laboratory, engineers are already working on a response. Perhaps a new generation of electronic warfare systems, laser defenses, or micro-interceptors. The only certainty in modern war is this: the enemy you do not see is the one already aiming at you. The story of Rubicon and the FP2 shows how the war in Ukraine has ceased to be just a battle for territory. It has become a war of minds, technology, and adaptation. On one side, Russia created the most feared drone unit of the conflict. On the other, Ukraine answered with a weapon that not only destroyed its enemy, but changed the rules of the game. Each new strike, each new drone model, keeps redefining the battlefield. And the question that remains is inevitable: how far can this technological escalation go? And what will be the next chapter in this invisible war in the skies? Now, as Ukraine moves forward with increasingly lethal drones, Russia faces a problem that no algorithm or artificial intelligence can solve: the lack of tanks to fight with. With losses piling up, Moscow has begun reviving armored vehicles from the Soviet era, cannibalizing scrap metal just to keep its army standing. The result? Ancient machines returning to the front lines, and an army that seems to be fighting against time itself. Click now on the video appearing on your screen and see with your own eyes what Russia is putting on the battlefield, and why even its own soldiers are calling these vehicles zombie tanks. And don't forget to subscribe to the Military Ground. See you there.